Never opinions.
And that's the interesting part that I tell people, like, if you have any concern, I've seen, I think, one place where they'll check things out to students and they'll say, this information is for you alone. If you share this with anybody, you are breaking our policy. Like, you cannot share this information with anybody except for yourself. And so it kind of puts the problem onto the other person to say, like, so say a student in high school wants to use it for notes in class. And the thing that people are concerned about is being a soundbite for 10 seconds put on YouTube or Facebook or somewhere. But the trick comes down to saying to the student and the parents say, this stuff is for you. You can't share it indiscriminately. I mean, you could here and there, but it's at your risk for, using it in the wrong way. So that's kind of one way you can kind of get around that whole, because legal, a lot of people get nervous about that, but
right.
in the end, I'd rather have people hear what I said versus what somebody else said I said.
Greg, I wonder if anybody has any policies that they give to students that ask them to sign off on and come to an agreement about it. That would be really nice to have if we could find some and post them on Infinitec.
I've got a couple.
I have one too. I have one that our students in our high schools use that is like a student agreement, and so they have to take it in and have an agreement with the teacher, and it lists several things, and some of them are they're not going to, after they're done with that class or that semester and they don't need it anymore, that they will get rid of it, and agreeing that it's only for them, and that there's some kind of signal that the teacher can give them for when they want them to stop recording or not record anymore. So, and I can share that with you.
Oh, that'd be great. Now, Nicole, is that something you created or did you get from somebody else?
No, it's something we just created.
Oh, okay, great.
Nicole, that'd be really great. I'd like to have that too, because we have a couple of teachers at the high school level that are using it, and that has always been a question for them.
Mm-hmm. Right, and that's like initially, because whenever we started, actually it came out of whenever using digital recorders, just regular digital recorders. So I've had that,
okay.
We've had it for a long time, but with the Livescribe Pens, obviously we're using it a lot more. I still have one teacher, this is the first time I've had a teacher that still is uncomfortable with it, even with that form. She's still not real comfortable with it, and I'm not sure she's going to allow it in her room, but otherwise, it usually eases everybody's minds a little bit.
Right. I'd like to see that policy too. In Garden, we're actually implementing an iPad program, of course, a different topic, but with the same type of same issues, if you will, because we want to record some of these lectures and discussions for some of our students on IEPs, and some teachers are very uncomfortable about that. They don't want their class recorded necessarily, either video or audio. And we're trying to get around that. So that policy would be very helpful, I think.
Yeah, I'm happy to share it out.
Thank you.
Yep, and I have some links because this is the piece that scares everybody from using it even sometimes, and I think it's not a new problem that's been dealing, especially the people are visually impaired, because they've been bringing recorders in a lot. And the summary I've seen is that unless the school has a policy, it's kind of hard to. The law in Minnesota, at least, is that as long as one person in the room knows it's happening, it's not illegal. But it's one of those things that I always tell the students that I'm working with, make sure the teacher knows you're recording. Like that's kind of the protocol I always advise, is make sure somebody knows they're being recorded. Otherwise, it's kind of that feeling of mistrust, or you just don't know what's going to happen. And so anyways, yesterday, great story. People, they're just not comfortable with this. For me, it's like you're writing down what I said. It's just almost the same as recording what I say. And there was a student that was really excited about it. He'd actually seen it online before. But then when I asked him to try it, he just said, no, I don't want to touch it. It's just too weird. It was just like, it was out of his comfort zone. He was uncomfortable with it. And it's just, it's just that whole human experience. We're not comfortable with new things sometimes, I think.
Or was it the fact of looking different and using something nobody else was able to use?
And that, there's pieces of that, but he was all alone. And I just.
Oh, okay.
It was just us. And we were playing with it. And I said, here, just try to hit record, and I want to see if you can do it, and then I'm going to leave. I just want you to try it and see how easy it is. And he was like, no, that's too weird. And I said, it's not going to hurt you. I mean, it was like, he acted like it was going to shock him or something. It was so interesting. So I'm going to jump to the next video here.
Greg, one of the things I wanted to say is I'm so excited. I haven't tried them yet, but there's the sticky notes.
You bet. They're great.
I know that when I do the reading part with Matt's counterpart Gina in Garden City, and they really do wonderful things with the Livescribe, and they were cutting them apart and putting the little dot papers and things like that on things. They are really far ahead, I think, of a lot of other places and how they use that, clear down to Matt's preschoolers.
That sounds phenomenal. What's going on there? I mean, that is amazing. That is good. And that's where, there's another piece. Now, this is great. This is kind of what we want, is just discussion throughout this thing. So please, if you have comments, let me know. We have one more video, but it's only about a 4 or 5 minute video, so we have time. I think the Post-its are super powerful. There's just so many things you can do with them. Is my video showing right now?
No.
Right now. Yeah, I keep trying to get to show, but I have a Post-its in my hand. I mean, they're basically the same thing as regular Post-it notes. What they have is they have the record, pause, and stop, and volume control on them. And if you wanted to, you could cut out the volume control on a piece of paper and stick it on cardboard, and then just always have that available no matter what. But they do have these audio stickers that are interesting. It's like, if you're really good at Post-it notes, my rule of thumb is if you've used like over 50 Post-it notes, you might be ready for the stickers, because the stickers are kind of re-recordable. You can have one sticker like an Avery label. You peel it off and you stick it on, like, say, a spot on this student's desk, and they touch it, and it says what they're supposed to do that day. And then what you can do is you can take and touch that dot, erase what's on the dot with the audio, and then re-record a new thing on there. So the student knows that dot is always what they're supposed to do. It's always in the same place, and it always looks the same. Hey there, Ann. And you could take the ink out of it, and you can put a stylus in there. So these things here, you can take the ink out, and you put a stylus in there so it doesn't re-ink the spot, and so it doesn't get all full of marks and all that stuff. So my fingers wobble, but anyways, it pulls out, and then you can put a plastic stylus tip in there. So just here, if I can get that.
I have a question for you as you're doing that. I know that you can't really laminate those strips, though. Is that correct for them to work?
Yeah, I'm not positive on that. I thought I remember doing it once and it worked, but I can't tell you for sure. But you could. The nice part is you could just keep, redoing. You could just cut off a page, stick it on a piece of cardboard, and use it for 3 weeks, and then redo it another time if you needed to.
And Deb, I've actually tried to laminate, and I've had about mixed results, 50-50 or so. Sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't. I think I don't know if it depends on if it's the notebook versus the printing paper. I don't know I don't know what's causing it to work sometimes, but not others.
Okay, thanks.
So, Greg, as you were talking about the whole schedule idea, I'm wondering if that might be a nice transition away from picture schedules to a little more independence and a little less queuing. If we're only going to do this little dot on the desk, that's going to give that auditory schedule. It's kind of a neat idea.
Yeah, and that's the neat part is you could start with a visual schedule and have audio next to it. So some kids need that verbal prompt from Mrs. Johnson, who they really like.
Right.
And Mrs. Johnson puts her voice on there, and then I say to Miss Johnson, you need to be 10 feet away from this student, but your voice will be there. If you need it, that student can listen to it and hear it. And I just think there's so much value in that person they trust and respect or whatever is in that piece of paper. And so it adds a whole nother element versus this computerized voice that they have no connection with. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that's a really big part, especially I bet early childhood. It's probably interesting they hear in the teacher's voice and stuff like that. So I think there's just so many options with that. So good. Well, any other comments here, or should I jump into the next video?
I think you can jump.